Hola and welcome to Oye Cinema Club. My name is Marina, aka Dignified Couch Potato. Tonight we are going to be reviewing the movie Suffragette, directed by Sarah Gabron and written by Abby Morgan. Chose this film in harmony with our category of the month, women empowerment. One of the categories, because it could have been a movie made in Africa. I try to do both, but no, this is where we're at. I'm not alone. I am with the talented Steve Dez, Jason Eccles, and El Dondino. Um, yeah, let's dive right in to our first impressions of this film. Dino, you go first.
First time watching it, again, I feel like, oh man, the whole movie, I'm just like, these movies, I'm like, can I just go watch Kill Bill? Can I just go watch women have revenge? Like, I could just imagine Carey Mulligan, man. Oh man, every time I think I'm like, oh, I think I know Carey Mulligan, and it's like, oh no, I don't. Like, she just keeps these bangers after bangers, and I was just thinking like, someone's had to have done a double feature of Suffragette followed by Promising Young Woman, right? If not, I submit right here on application that we should get that as a double feature going. Because
Here, here, here,
boy,
here.
here. All right. So the men have agreed. uh, yeah. So I enjoyed. Man, it's weird watching it alone. I'm just like, man, this sucks. This sucks. I want to. This just sucks. But I was saying earlier, like, you can't find this film. You can't find it. You gotta pay for it. You can't, and or you gotta go and find like online things that aren't on the up and up. And what did I did? I said, you know what, women, I'm gonna pay for a rental to see this because I support the cause. So I paid to rent the film to watch it in its full glory. And yeah, it was very interestingly shot, I thought, because very early on they bring up Gleason's character, talk about the new camera and all that. So I don't know how you guys felt about it, but it definitely felt like a lot, not that it's a point of view, but like what now could maybe be like
Voyeurism.
yeah, and I don't know, was this film on film or digital? Kind of like end of watch, because it felt like they kept talking about how they wanted to have these cameras just in the streets, kind of taking spying on the suffragettes, and so I feel like some of the footage felt that way, that it was very much kind of a little chaotic and kind of point of view of the street and stuff like that. And I think at times it really worked. At other times, I was like, that was an interesting choice. The graininess of the film, I could tell. And that's where I wasn't sure if, like, some of it was maybe film, some of it was digital, or it was all digital, but certain scenes that were, like, out in the streets and kind of in the, when they were protesting and stuff like that, that maybe they made it feel a little bit more on the film side, as like in we were spying in on the suffragettes type thing. Anyway, uh sad movie. It's sad. Not a whole lot of laughs. Wanted to punch a whole bunch of dudes in that film, and the great acting all around. Gleason, like, oh man, heartbreaking with a son, and very interested in seeing like if other than the woman, spoiler alert, that gets trampled by the horse at the end, if like Carey Mulligan's character is actually how much based on a true story that is, or if it's just like let's kind of combine, various a bunch of stories from the different women in the group that ended up doing, part of the suffragating. I don't know the verbiage. Anyway, I'm now going on way too long, so I say I enjoyed the movie, and just off the back, yeah, everyone should be able to vote and everyone's equal, men, women, people, place, thing, whatever.
Thank you, Dino. Um, Let me see. Jason, you go next.
So thanks. First time seeing this movie. I think I've heard of it. I think I remember when it came out. It got past me. But Carey Mulligan is always welcome on Cinema Club. She's always welcome here. Uh, she's terrific as always. She's a really good actor, man. Like her early scenes in the movie where she's just sort of like staring at the glass and stuff. There's so much going on in her eyes. Like she's just telling the whole story of this character and this person and this woman, and you see this person sort of deep in thought just before like their world sort of gets disrupted, and it's just like you already sort of know this woman. It's weird. Carey Mulligan is just a masterful actor. But um, I did like this movie. It's loaded with lots of talent, a lot of talent doing really good work in here. Meryl Streep jumps out at you. Brendan Gleeson. Um, some of the other actors that I had too familiar with their work, like the one who played Violet, the one who got her into it. I thought she was really terrific. Um, yeah, there's some really good work. Period. Uh, yeah. So, as far as like the suffrage movement, I know about it, like in reference. I know what it was, but I don't think I've ever seen a story about it, especially one like this that's pretty dark. The dark parts of women fighting for the right to vote. You know, I guess I always imagined that it was a tough road for sure, but I never like imagined the little details before, like kids being taken away and women getting harassed in the work. I mean, they're still being harassed in the workplace. That's what I was thinking when I was watching this. Like these women are being harassed in the workplace, and it just never stopped. It just maybe became slightly less egregious over the course of decades. Even now, I'm sure there's women being sexually harassed in the workplace, and they're afraid to do something because you know the people they're working for have too much control or power over their lives. Just it's crazy. It's crazy. So the other first impression I had when I was watching this, I'm like, here go white men doing it again. Just like every time you watch one of these movies, it's just a bunch of white guys just ruining everybody's life. um Let me see. my other my other impressions were the cinematography at first was bugging me. And I'm glad Dino actually said that because that makes a lot more sense. Everything kind of felt handheld, and the camera was kind of like in their faces, going in and out of focus a lot. Um, yeah, it's like the cameraman's clearly walking around them a lot in this movie. They're cutting, but definitely a lot of it feels handheld. So that's a really good call because I didn't like it at first. Like it felt too modern for this type of movie. I was like, this is kind of
Yep.
weird. Like this camera's working. Like I just feel like movies like this usually kind of try to get the whole scope of everything and use different shot selections. And yeah, and then it's like, okay, I get it. So that's a really good call on that. This is being the first handheld camera, and yeah, so that makes a lot of sense actually. And actually makes it a little bit cooler. Interesting choice for sure. Um, yeah,
Well, my
yeah, a lot
night
of the
is
movies.
done here then. Jason liked my thoughts, so I'm gonna head on out. Bye, guys.
um, a lot of this movie also is very sad script. A lot of this is kind of heartbreaking stuff, man. You know, that people even have to go through this to just exist. It's like ridiculous. Like always reminds me, like, what are we doing? Like this wasn't even that long ago. I know it's like close to 100 years ago now, like this started or whatever, but it's not really that long ago. It's just not like
But then,
it's
but then
crazy.
they showed the other countries. It was sorry if I'm jumping at the end when they were showing when other countries like Switzerland was like 1970 something. That is weird.
1971.
Yeah, Switzerland shocked me. Like, I feel like that's like such a progressive place that's beautiful, and just everybody's like in
No,
the
no,
out.
no, 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 no. It's weird because that's the other. My granddad is Swiss, and again, I'm gonna butcher this, but it's a weird thing. Like women, like Swiss nationality, at least it didn't go down through women. Women had to marry Swiss men to keep Swiss nationality or some weird. So yeah, it's for as like great or whatever as Switzerland and neutral as they've been with so much, they have some weird citizenship, and so I wasn't watching it today. I wasn't surprised of like, oh yeah, Switzerland, 1970 something.
Yeah.
Sure, I can see that they're a little backwards in some of their things.
What was the
Sorry
first
again.
country to allow it?
I don't even remember the list. All I remember is Saudi Arabia. It was 2015. I clutched my little pearls.
No. But that they were, I don't know, did they get it? Because when the movie came out, at least that it said 2015, they've been promised.
Oh, so I couldn't tell if promised was like connected to Saudi Arabia or if it was like for all of them. But okay. Dang. Wow, who knows? Yeah. Wow. Um, but yeah, no, all good points, all good points. We'll dive into like the sadness even more afterwards. But Steve, what was your first impression?
Oh,
Ooh, just okay. I see how you feel, Steve.
No, I mean, I'm just gonna echo what the majority of my colleagues here, the army of men that we have here, have said about this incredible film. That it is very sad. One thing that I will add though was that this film really, especially the very violent scenes, like Dino was describing when the horse came and stuff like that, like it made it very real. Like it felt very real. Like for example, when she was coming out of jail, I believe that she had bruises and all that stuff. Like it felt like very real, and and I like in those particular scenes, I really think the film really shows you like a lot of the sacrifices that like this in this particular case these British women like had to go through in order to just try to get some equal rights, and they weren't gonna stop even at the point that they were. There's one thing that you're giving up your child for a certain point, but like when it's getting taken away from you, that's gotta be
whew.
extremely devastating. So I'm pretty sure, like, I wish there were even more. I can't wait to hear what Marina has to say, but I wish there were more women in particular for this particular film to just discuss the aspects of those things, because it's a whole different perspective when you see, that maternal part of things. And like even me, that I'm not a father or anything, I could see like just how much that could just tear up like a part of you, just something like that. So just the cycle, just beyond the actual physical trauma and violence that was there, like the psychological trauma is like a whole nother level when you like see the movie in that perspective. And even though it's been said, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it also probably a little bit later too, but I really feel that like having that final touch of just like actually blending in like actual real footage, I think
Yeah.
at the very end with the actual dates, like it's more eye opening of just how slow of a progression we've made as a society as a whole. Just because there's still more than likely countries. Like another one that surprised me, Dino, was Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
That I also saw it like very further away. Uh,
1950 something, I believe.
I don't remember exactly, but I just know like when I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
Well, I was looking for Paraguay and I didn't see it, and I feel bad that I can't remember, but it
Still hasn't
wasn't.
happened yet.
I know, But you got to think about also all those countries in Latin America being in different types of dictatorships. So I mean, I
I
just
actually think women are not allowed to vote in the Cayman Islands. I might be wrong about that, but you can check.
Oh, well, Nelly. I appreciate you guys. I too wish there was another girl here, but it's cool. No, it's always great. Like, there's 3 more men on this earth that have seen this movie, right? Because, like, let's be real. I don't feel like the advertisement was great. I had never heard about this movie until I was gonna pick something women empowerment just for like when we were doing like a freestyle week, and I did the vote, and I was googling and I was looking things up, and I said we're gonna either watch Suffragette, this promising young woman, or one that's kind of maybe about um, the Weinstein. Like it's like a not really about it, but kind of. I forget the name of that movie. So it put in the back of my mind that even though we picked Promising Young Woman, that I eventually wanted us to review this, and I waited. I never watched this. This was my first time. I am not gonna lie to you guys. I watched that movie 3 times in a row because I feel like I got punched in the face the first time. And I was like, I have to host this show. Let me go back and really dive in. And I even started it over again today because it's just like it's crazy. Like, it's so sad, but also like fascinating that like people have to fight for something that makes like so much common sense. Like even in the littlest things, like it's just crazy what power, like people wanting power and not understanding that we're like everybody deserves things. Someone needs to go on mute. I've got ADHD. I hear somebody scrambling around. But yeah, it blew me away. I didn't really know too much about, I still don't. This is probably the only thing I really know about another country. Like, obviously, I know that women have it hard all over the world, but this is my first time watching a story like this about something that happened very similarly here in a different country. And it was just like every little thing was just such a gut punch. Like when she was like, he belongs with me, and the guy's like, well, no, law says belongs with me. Just like just people and their power. And I know it's such a tough, like I wish I had the answer to world peace, because like power is like so often abused, but it was really, really hurtful. I feel like I didn't talk to my husband all day. It was like, F you for having a penis. And
Oh,
like, here's your dinner. It was not made with love tonight. Like I just wanted to rebel. I just wanted to burn everything down. Like I was just so upset. And like Jason said, like there's still passive aggressive sexual harassment now, but even the weirdest things like were triggering me, because it's like her husband probably like grew up working in this facility too, probably knows that his wife had been like borderline raped by her boss, and the whole like gotta do what we gotta do concept pisses me off. Like he's just more mad at her being an embarrassment for fighting for a cause than like what she's gone through. It was just so many levels of being just hurtful, and it's just like wow. And like this, I feel like there are still countries that do this, and it's like it was really tough to watch. I can't believe I watched it 3 times. Like I was just like I couldn't stop. I was like, no, I gotta watch that again. Something has to change, and like I have to echo like Carey Mulligan did an amazing job. Like never would I thought Meryl Streep was the smaller actress in something. Like she was so great, and I loved her progression. Like it was a true like not true. I think I started looking up characters. I know Meryl Streep was playing a character that was real. But some of the other people, yeah, they're just fictional for the story. But it was such a nice perspective of a person that probably has been stuck in this concept of like keep your head down, be happy that you have a job, and just think about your family. And you're going through these cycles, and you don't want to stir up trouble because like you're doing fine, you're eating, your family's safe, hey, yeah, I got raped a couple times when I was younger. Like it's just so desensitizing. It makes me so sad. But like to see a progression of somebody that has been like living in like this it is what it is realm, and like seeing her grow into like that, to grow into her kind of being a part of it, but like when she's questioned by the police, she's like, I'm not a suffragette. Like, don't put me in that group. So like full out, bang, 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 we're blowing it all up. Like I loved seeing her character grow. And it's real. Not everybody wakes up as leaders of the rebellion. Sometimes you get caught up in what society makes you feel like is normal, but it's not. And I really loved how they depicted that. So yeah, really good.
Can I really quick say also, you said borderline rape? No, it was rape. Let's put it out there. But
Yeah.
this is gonna sound weird. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm also like very easily we are in hopefully in a more modern society, right, than when the time of this took place and what was called what and what was rape, what wasn't, what rights he had, right? All that. This movie could have easily been kind of a virtual signaling kind of film of focusing on the rape aspects of them and it didn't, and that I really appreciated that or liked that, which is weird because it is rape and it's horrible. But the fact that the movie makers decided like because in that time period, those characters, like you said, of her being like, I have my kid, you know, this is what happened to me. She saw her friend's daughter being raped by their boss, but you know, kind of ran away. It was that kind of like everyone has the shame of it, but they won't bring it up. But we know because we're in this modern society and we know what's right and wrong, so that doesn't have to be, you know, shoved down our throats to understand what's happening. So it's a weird thing to say of like, I'm glad they didn't like push, the characters didn't push the whole rape is wrong because it is, because they kept it in that person, they kept it in that time period and those characters. And for her, it was just like the saddest thing. I mean, rape and all that is horrible and sad and getting your kids taken away. But her saying when she has to speak in front of whoever they're beginning before she leap was the are you forget or are you not or what? And she's like, and it was
You're
something like,
breaking up a little bit.
oh, it was her like, I never I'd be able to have a vote, or I never thought I would have a chance to have a vote. I forget. Oh, crap. At the very beginning, when you know when her friend has been beaten up, which seems like by her spouse, and so she's gonna read her statement, ask her instead, and she's just like, I just never thought I have a vote, and all the men laugh. And to me, that was so powerful of just like so much throughout history, people that are, you know, being taken advantage of and don't have rights. So many times it's like, this is just what we know. Like I never thought I'd have, you know, a vote. So I never even asked about it or wondered about it. And then she just gets getting thrown into the thick of it and kind of gets pushed into it, which is a great thing. Again, it's like it doesn't just be for women rights and voting rights, it goes for any kind of group. Why do people rebel? Why do people go and start blowing up mailboxes and telegram lines, lines, and that shit? It's like people don't want to. Nobody wants to be silent. Nobody wants what she had to understand. But the minute anyone starts to ask for equal rights or whatever, that's the law. I'm following the law. I don't want to beat you. I don't want to rape. The law says that I can. So let me go ahead. You know, we watched that Ava DuVernay film, and they go to India and the caste system and all this. That's just the law.
Yeah.
We got to follow it.
And that's why like the movies like this are just like extreme validation for me of why I don't have time for conversations with people that try to fight anything that just isn't like if it makes you uncomfortable for someone to be treated equally, I cannot have a conversation with you. It's just like that's just where I'm at, and like I'm very about a lot of things. I love hearing perspectives. I love hearing things, but it's just crazy to me how much hate people have in their heart. Like I remember the scene where they were saying that basically like even after all those talks, they said they didn't have enough proof that any changes need to be made. And like that guy in the crowd was like, he's like, so they can't vote still, right? Like he was happy. Like he was almost like, yeah, like I'm walking away from this. And it's like, it's just crazy to me that people feel good seeing someone else be brought down. It's such a sad thing to see, like especially when it affects an entire group of people. But like you see it on one-to-ones. Like I meet people, I'll be like, who would do this? And then you meet people that like hate you on a one-on-one basis. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's all of you hateful people in a group that hates anybody else being treated equally. So that's why, yeah, no, I'm not messing around with anybody. Like it's disgusting. Like I'm like, if it makes you uncomfortable to see a change that gives people equality, there's something wrong with you, and you cannot change my mind. Like it's a wrap. And I love that this movie, I think what you were like kind of saying too, Dino, is like they kept a lot of the incidents vague. And I think they did that because you can get defensive. A huge thing that always happens in the conversation about like how women are treated is that like, oh, but it's not all men. So it's like, so I feel like if something would have been too intense,
Right.
it can turn a viewer away. So the vagueness is powerful in a sense because it's like the way they like escalate it makes you more comfortable. And I hate that it has to do like that. I was honestly bored for like the first 30 minutes. I'm like, burn it down. But I think they're easing the viewers in, and you're growing with the character, and you're seeing the hate grow. She loses one thing after another, after another, after another, fighting for what's right. And so I appreciated it in the end. But at first I was just like, bring on the water. Like we can like, let's end all of this. But in the end, it was really good direction.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I mean, you're the woman in the group right now, but that I'm aware of, none of the men that have spoken, even though we don't have kids, right? That we know of. But that's a thing, right? Like that was extreme. I mean, imagine A, you can't even see your kid, and then B, then you come for his birthday to try to give a gift, and he's been sold. I mean, that's what happened. Again, it's not necessarily a real character, but those things happen, and they have happened, and they've continued to happen in our world, in history. That's a fact. Not necessarily in that age or in that sequence, but those are scenarios that sadly are not unique to humanity, and that's where I think the film did a good job of trying to find universal kind of truth, right? Of like, fine, you aren't gonna want to be preached about treating women fairly, or this or that, but if you have a kid, if you know someone like this, would you feel okay about this type of thing, right? So as a mother, I don't know your thoughts just on that scene alone, or that scenario of her. I feel, going back to Promising Young Woman, she has that moment where she had been holding on, holding on, holding on, and then the final thing that she finally started getting back to not trying to create chaos or stuff. And once that cord got taken out, it's like, that's it. I'm done. I wasn't sure if I was all in on it, but there's nothing holding me back now. So
Yeah, it was a really sad scene. Like just in general, I honestly was a little shocked that he kicked her out. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh shoot, this is happening right now. Snap. Like at first I thought he was like locking her in the closet. The way that they filmed that scene, I couldn't tell what that door was. And then I was like, oh, she has to go. Wow. So yeah, I mean, it was really, really sad. But I think again, I think the movie did a really good job at making you feel like these people, this is what the life was like. It almost was like she expected it. And like, even though it was super sad, I think, yeah, definitely the adoption part was crazy. Like, you're so disgusted with like what I'm fighting for as my husband, this person who's supposed to love me, that you rather put our son up for adoption than just have me move back in. Like, we don't even
Yeah.
have to be like doing anything crazy. Like, you rather give your own son up than just have me come back. Like, what? Like, it's like, yeah, yeah, it was crazy. And I guess like, yeah, I really, it just really makes you like, they always say like, are you better be living your life, because like people literally died for you, like to have the rights that you have. People like lost their kids, they to fight the fine fight. Like we're so quick to be thankful for the changes that are made for ourselves, but like don't always support the rebels in the moment. And so just like support people that are doing things. Like I mean, this economy sucks, but if I ever run into some good money, I want to support more and more charities and things like that, because like it takes people going against the grain to make a change. And it's crazy. I just, who knows how many people lost their children trying to just be able to vote. Like, that's it. Not even asking, like, I feel like asking for equal pay was later. Like, it was just like, "Hey, can I just have an opinion on the laws that are being made?" Like, like,
Well,
Oh,
real quick, just because what's crazy, we talked about like, oh, they got their voting thing, but it was like only certain women older than 30. It
mm,
wasn't even just like all women can vote. At the very end of the movie, it was like the women had to be over 30 years old, and clearly there were some other stipulations that we
was
don't know,
like
which
married
is
or something like that.
probably I didn't say in the thing, but that's literally what
Yeah, you can have a
voting
vote as long as your husband is still allowed to control it.
somebody, yeah, over 30. But also, I think it didn't say that they had like the right to their kids and stuff yet at that point, because they had so many stuff at the
well, yeah,
end
it
of
was a
just
difference. I think it was almost like a 20-year difference between when they
yeah,
allowed voting and when they allowed women to have custodial rights.
custody, and then from equal, like completely equal voting. And that's the shit that even in the US now they're trying to go back, right? The voting rights of that, again, it was, for African American and other people, that it was like, oh, you gotta be able to, how many jelly beans are in this ball, how many, like, I can only imagine. That's, I mean, and then they're trying to do that shit again now. Like, it's like here in this country, it's
Yeah.
like we already have our ID. Our ID is what it makes you be able to vote. It's who we are. And they're trying to find a way to make it to where there are more steps and make it more complicated. And this is, again, so the fact that this was showing for women rights to vote, and I was showing all the years and of the different countries, and there were some in the 70s, and some that are still waiting, by the way. There's some countries where women can't vote, or where 100% of the population can vote. And then there are countries that do have that, but are trying to find ways to suppress the vote. It is wild. It is
Yeah,
absolutely wild.
it's crazy to me. I'll never understand what the angle is there. I mean, I guess, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you control who votes, you control what laws are made too, kind of thing. But like just the littlest things that like just happen. Like, I know they're trying to pass something to where being homeless is illegal, and like it can be a felony. And once you become a
Yeah.
felon, you can't vote. And it's just like the littlest things. I want Uncle Sam to shut down Oh Yeah Cinema Club. So we'll keep it. We'll keep it. But if you know you
Man, that would be the day if Uncle Sam shuts down Cinema Club before all the other shit that is going on in this country. And we're just like, oh shit.
He's like, first of all, we
Oh,
don't want anybody to watch this movie. Strike one, and then
Okay.
and then strike two. You're talking
oh,
about
by the
our.
way, before I forget, just because it was suffered, PBS had a docu series about women in voting rights in the U.S. as well, and there were these foreign women It was like three of them. It wasn't a Model. It might have been a Model T. If not, it was a little later, Model A maybe or something like that. And it was three women and maybe one guy, if not three women, and a couple of them were foreign, if not all three. And they were driving around the U.S. trying to create the suffragette movement in the U.S. And it's super interesting. And I wonder if that is gonna be but it's a really interesting documentary. It's a whole series on PBS that I saw definitely two or three of the episodes of it. But
Is it
yeah,
a Ken
like
Burns thing?
I think so. Maybe his daughter was part of it. I mean, he does so many different things, but just the fact that it's just like not only was it crazy driving a model any car in the 1900s across country, but then you're also trying to be like, being a woman, having to ask for directions, driving. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but
Look into that documentary. So what would you guys say is favorite character? We had a few characters, which is great. I feel like the last few movies have had like only a few main characters, so we have a lot to choose from.
Um, it's so Carey Mulligan is very good in this thing. But I would have to say the woman um Marie Ann, whatever her name was, the one who played Violet, the one who got her into it. I really
Mhm.
liked her. She was kind of like the party starter. And she, at the end, she had to kind of bow out because she was pregnant or whatever. But she was kind of like what she was kind of like the Tupac. You know, Tupac famously said that if I don't spark the revolution myself, I guarantee you I'm going to be the spark plug to the person that does do it. She was kind of like that, right? She was a spark plug. She got it all jumped off for this girl who, made a huge sacrifice. So, a lot of these women probably, I'm sure she recruited all types of people, but that's a heavy load too, to be brave enough to be out in the open recruiting people for this cause that everybody's afraid to be a part of. Like, she had put her neck on the line for a long period of time, I guess is what I'm getting at.
yeah.
So yeah, I liked her a lot, and I liked the actor who played her. She kind of had like a suffragette face. She had like the face of someone from 100 years ago who was tired and like I mean that's how she looked. I'm being honest, man. Like she just
That was
she has a.
makeup. That was makeup and the hair. She looks great.
It doesn't even matter. She just looked like somebody from 100 years ago to me.
She will be watching this at home. Like, what the fudge, man?
I mean, I'm sure it was hair and makeup and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, she just had that kind of face. Like, you know,
Jason with his fucking propaganda. He doesn't know.
But I
she
feel
was.
what you're saying.
She's a nice looking lady. I'm just saying that it was great casting.
Yeah, for better or for worse, I feel um like the bloodline of the white person has stayed true to things. So it's a lot easier for them to do period pieces. Like it's the one good thing about not crossing it up and keeping it pure white is we can
The
make these
period pieces. Yeah.
yeah, thanks guys. But my favorite character was definitely Maud, Carey Mulligan's character. And that's different for me. I'm not usually like a main character girly because I feel like a supporting character is like the one. Like I wanted to say so bad the lady who like put herself in front of the horses, but like that's all I really knew about her. Like I was just like as brave as that was, I just really loved the arc in Maud's like
Yeah.
character and everything about it. And so she was definitely my favorite. Yeah, I never got a chance. Yeah, I tried to see like who was real and who wasn't. I believe she was not, but
Well, you know who we haven't even brought up that that we always see Carter who's always in the Tim Burton movies.
oh, Tim Burton's
Oh,
wife.
Helen Carter.
Yeah.
That's Tim Burton's wife, right? Or no?
Huh?
That's Tim Burton's wife.
His ex partner or something like that. It
Think
might
Oh,
have been
so.
his wife,
I'm
but
not,
definitely his ex
but
partner.
yeah, and she had also been in Sweeney Todd. It's so weird. You don't see her in like period pieces, right? Wasn't she also in Fight Club? That was her, right? In Fight Club?
Yeah, I've seen her in period pieces.
Right, but the majority of, I guess, the people don't know her as someone like, oh wow, oh, she did some really good stuff. Like I could have just seen more of her with her husband. You know, that whole relationship of like she kind of drops it down like, well, he
Yeah, she's a
inherited,
firecracker on screen. Helen
yeah,
Barton Carter, when she's on screen, it's kind of hard to look at anybody else.
yeah, like my husband inherited the pharmacy from his dad. I had to fucking go to school just to even be whatever nurse or whatever it is, right? Yeah, I mean, no doubt, Carey Mulligan. I will bring up Gleason just because, and again, probably not a real character, but just because it's that weird evil, but you feel bad, but you don't because he knows it's wrong, right? So just one of those like kind of like evil characters, you will, that like believes the shit, or even like I want the power, or whatever, but they have such a good interaction between the two of them. Like when Carey Mulligan writes a letter to him saying like, I guess we're both just foot soldiers, and like he acted so well because he knows it's wrong. He even said it, and I'm following the rule. Like so. Definitely Carey Mulligan, but I gotta give it up to him because it's weird because there weren't no really good likable male characters, and his character isn't likable because he's a, you know, he's copper, he's the man, you know, fuck the police.
I was gonna say
Uh, did such a good, he did so well acting of just
he's.
like that. Hmm?
I was
Like
gonna say he had definitely quoted him. I like when he was saying, when she was like, "They lied to us," and he was like, "They promised nothing and they gave nothing." I was like, "Oh,
there you go.
dang."
And it's great in other movies they've shown characters like that struggle with good and right and wrong because they'll show them in their home, so they'll show him like normally with a wife or has a daughter, right? That kind of stuff. That's why Carey Mulligan asked her husband if we would have had a daughter, stuff like that. And normally that's what they do with characters in power or position, like Gleason's character, but they didn't. It was just him by himself having to deal with that situation. And again, being that it's made up characters, but him, going up to her bed in the church and seeing like newspaper, ding, they're going to be at the horse race, right? Never really going to happen that way. But being there and bumping into her and letting her go, like that kind of stuff, so masterful. And so both of them like I could have seen like three more scenes between them. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in American Gangster, or one of those where it's just like this, they know what's right and what's wrong, but they're both on their own sides, but they both kind of
Pacino
agree
and De
on,
Niro in Heat.
yes,
I
as
want to
well.
be clear. Russell motherfucking Crowe, he was a motherfucking snitch. Like no, he does not go in that category. He never did anything like letting somebody go. He wanted to bring that's my favorite gangster. No, he was not on the side. If anything, I would I would think a good comparison is like U.S. Marshals or The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones. That was more like he's doing his thing. He's
No,
a
wait,
guy,
no. I'm
but he
talking
turns
about
a blind eye.
I'm talking about the chemistry of the characters necessarily. Don't give me about the right and wrong. I'm talking about just the interaction between the characters. You bring up U.S. Marshals and The Fugitive?
Because like
Oh
in the
my!
sense that like Tommy Lee Jones was doing his thing as a cop, but when like he knew that something was off, he did turn a little bit of blind eye for us to have a good story. Russell
Oh
Crowe
no,
was
no, no. He
on
says,
the
"I
law.
don't care." Didn't Tommy Lee Jones tell him, "I don't care"? He's like, "I'm innocent. I don't care," and he had to jump off the sewage, the runoff.
We're talking about the whole
So
movie in general. The
I
whole movie.
know, but I'm just saying of how dynamic the characters are, and they can go toe to toe on screen, right? Again, I'm not saying that they're identical. I'm just saying as like well acted out performances is what
Triggered.
I'm saying.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
That's just like me. I just want to punch Russell Crowe in that movie.
So I have a quote for you guys in this movie. I kept thinking about this quote that riots are the voice of the unheard. You guys know that quote?
no.
Riots are the voice. Yeah, it's something like that. Maybe I'm a little off, but it's basically riots are the voice of the unheard. Um, and I kept thinking that throughout this thing because it sort of the movie starts off with like them disrupting society. Like, hey, look at us. We got a problem. And like you have to disrupt society a little bit to make a change, otherwise people aren't gonna, I mean, for whatever reason, that's all humans really do respond to, just having their lives disrupted. But then there's a great quote in this thing that I liked a lot, and it's in line kind of with the scene that Dino's talking about, and sort of like the overarching, I think, theme or message of the film. And it's when Violet said, you want me to respect the law, make the law respectable. Because as a human, why am I going to respect something that's not even a respectable like entity? Like the moral code of this whole system is off, and you want me to fall into it and be subjected by it? Absolutely not. Like I'm doing you a favor actually by trying to play along and ask for it within your system, and not just burn the whole system down, right? Like as humans, or whatever. Like it, and so, like, yeah, I just thought that was a pretty strong quote, and I think that spirit kind of lives in this movie, which I think it needs to.
Yeah, there's a few quotes I love too. Obviously the main one: "Never surrender, never give up the fight." I've been saying that all day for no reason,
Never surrender, never give up the fight. That's right.
And then we don't want to be lawbreakers; we want to be lawmakers. And it's like we're
That's
not
right.
trying to be these people that are not listening, but we are trying to have an opinion in the laws that are made, kind of thing. And then I would rather be a rebel than a slave. I was like, yes, loved that one. Yeah, that's it. Those are my favorite. Dina, did you have any quotes that you really liked in the movie? If we didn't steal them all,
You're my wife. You embarrass me. No. No, but I just thought of.
Yeah, that's one of the good ones.
No, but this movie has so many powerful scenes. I was just thinking of like, it starts with her. She has to make a delivery because I forget the reason. She's just looking at at the glass at the freaking display at a store of just like clothing, and I think it had a motif of a kid, right, or a daughter or something like that. Just trying to imagine, dream of a, kind of like seeing herself in that motif, and then that gets shattered, and she's just, and then she gets beat up. Like, that's so, like, just hearing you guys talk about your lines and all that right before that, I forget what Marina had said, but it made me think of that, of just like, so many people, nobody wants to, right? Nobody wants to be a rebel. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to just be able to live their life, right? And her not wanting any of that, as a character, right? But there are people in real life going on right now. There's so much turmoil right now all over the world, all over the different ways of what's the proper way of protest, what's the right thing of that. We go back to the civil rights movement, right? You have Martin Luther King Jr. here, and you have Malcolm X, and what's the proper way? It's like the people in power. What way do you want us to ask to be equal? Almost, right? Because we've tried, right? That and I was gonna say Susan Sarandon, but Meryl Streep talking about, like, she said 50 years. They had been going on for 50 years already at that point, or whenever the suffragette movement, and it's like, yeah, shit, peaceful shit ain't doing shit,
But yeah, so I was thinking about that too. Like another key component of this is like women could work at this point. of the movement. There probably had been little changes. And I think that's another thing too. Like, you get so grateful with the breadcrumbs you're given, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what it is that you're doing. And I see it on such a scale. Like, Jason knows personally, like, I am a fighter. Like, I probably would also too never be like the leader of the revolution, but I will support the leader and I will burn everything down with them. Like, I don't, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, my mom used to tell me that I'm ungrateful. And I am if it's not fair, right? If you give me something that's better than nothing, but you give someone else something just because they're different than me, and just because they look different, just because they have a different, private part, no, I'm sorry. I'm absolutely not thankful, and I will throw it in the garbage. Like, I don't want it at all. But that's just me. But most people don't think that way. Most people are like, wow, well, at least I can make some money and I can buy things for my kid. Like, yeah, I'm making 14 cents an hour and the guys are making 20 cents, but I could be making 0. And they're thankful, and they maybe, like, from in a society point of view, have a more positive outlook on life. But no, I want 19 cents too, especially if I'm doing the same job. And I'm getting raped? No, I need 25. So it's like, I
And
just
I'm only
hate
25, and you're getting right. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
at that
But
time.
but she spoke about,
Adjusted for inflation, Dino.
but also she spoke about the, not only were they making less, but they were working more hours. But and then that's the mistake, right? Like, you gotta be grateful, right? This whole idea of grateful and where that comes from. It's like, just be grateful you're able to have a job. Just be grateful you're getting paid. Just be grateful you're this. Just be grateful you're that. And it's happened with every different group of oppressed people, you know, part of the LGBTQ and all that and everything. Is like, you can get married, or it's a this or it's a that, and little by little. And so it's this idea. It's like, there's also a difference, right? You can be grateful, but you expect more, and you can, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I also, there seems to be a disconnect of like, are you not grateful? It's like, no, I am grateful, but just because I'm grateful doesn't mean that I don't expect more, or that I don't expect equality, right? That's in anything. It's like, don't just give me a crumb and be like, here, yeah, you should be grateful. And it's like, yes, I am grateful that I now have something, but now that clearly also that you were able to give me something, the smallest amount of thing, now you've just proven that we can be equal, right? If you finally gave me the tiniest bit of ounce of dignity of what might be right, yeah, I'll be grateful for you to now agree and say that we're equal. That's what it comes down to. And that's in every stratosphere.
In every
Oh
stratosphere,
boy, guys.
I'm gonna
Oh
burn
boy,
it down.
guys.
In every
Where's there
stratosphere, I'm burning it down if it's not fair. Like, I just don't. I can't wrap my head around it not being equal and me being grateful for it. It doesn't make any mathematical sense to me. Like, I just don't. I know. Like, like, if it's only crumbs that are available, right? There are worse places to live. And all there is these little things to give. Like, I feel so bad, like, in certain countries where they outsource to make clothing and things, and these children are working and they're only getting a certain amount of money. But, like, if that country didn't agree to that, there would probably be no jobs in that country at all. Like, and so those scenarios, I know those people are grateful, and I would never judge them for that because it's all there is to give. But if we find out that they're paying 50% of those kids $5 an hour and the other 50% $2.50, no, that kid does not need to be grateful. That kid is being screwed over, and it shouldn't be happening. And that's why I just, like, I can't wrap my, yes, you can there's a strategy of all times. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm half Hispanic, and I know it's a culture thing too in the Hispanic community, like, to where it sucks that it's happening, but let's just save up and screw it. Who cares if they look down on us? Well, let's just work hard and get what we want to get. And I applaud so many, like, people that have made do with what they got and then leveled up on their own. They just worked 10 times harder to get it. I applaud it. Wow, that's amazing. But I hate that they had to go through it. And that's just what it just is what it is. Because, yeah, you can make something positive out of any situation, but it really, really sucks. And I think the positivity, in a weird sense, holds us back, because if there are people that are willing to work for less, willing to be grateful for less, it does impact the change, like how hard it is to change. Like, and that's why these movements take so long, because people are like, no, but I should be so grateful for this, but it does impact how long it does take to make a change, because you've seen it work for you. I'm a saver. I've had to be on my own when nobody had helped me, and I have made my budgets work, and I've saved way better than someone else who's just like sad about it. But like, in a weird sense, that when you get comfortable and you make it work, you're giving people power to not ever make a change that is fair. And that's just my only opinion with that. Like, so
I remember there was an interesting quote from somewhere, and it said something along the lines that too much change at once, and people will rebel no matter what it is. You know, people adapt better to change slowly and progressively. Kind
yeah.
of like how a frog won't jump out of the hot water if you cook them inside the water or whatever. But yeah, it's something about like drastic change at once that just it makes societies collapse for some reason. I'm not saying it's right; it's 100% wrong. But there is something about drastic change. It's like even the people who maybe it benefits, they rebel against it. It's too much for their brains to like to gather at once, you know, or even the people who, of course, the people who are subjugating people, they everything goes ape wire in their minds, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like they've been programmed for so long. Human conditioning is a weird thing. Like our psychology is bizarre.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like there's so many elements to like what holds back change, because like even like in the littlest things, like I've had, even with my husband, like you have to really sit back and like even think about like generational trauma in parenting, right? Like, even in that sense, I feel like sometimes we forget how bad something made us feel, that we don't realize that we give it to the next generation. In the same sense, like this, before she was down for the cause, she saw that little girl being sexually assaulted in the room, but she kept her head down and she left, and she didn't want any trouble. And I understand why people don't want that, but it's just like you would think it would be our human instinct to not want anyone to ever have to deal with what we went through. But I hear so many people, not so much about sexual assault, but just like workplace abuse, like just workplace environments, just being like, well, I had to go through it, you'll get through it. You shouldn't want someone to have to go through that. And that's how I've always been. But I feel like as humans, like you said, like that psychology, that sociology of a group is just the way that it is. And it's just like, whoa. And it'll last for decades. And people, instead of making a change, yeah, they get through it. Yeah, you let your boss slap your butt. And yeah, maybe now you're the CFO. But man, you didn't become a CFO and make a change. Now you turn a blind eye. And it's just crazy how much it happens. It's like almost insanity how much it happens. Like somebody goes through that fire, and instead of like once they get to a place of power, dissolving the fire, they just keep continuing it because it's the way that it is. And I just feel like it's on so many different levels. I see that so often.
A movie that does a
And
really good job of portraying that whole concept was the one about the women at Fox News. I forget what it was called.
Bombshell.
Bombshell. Yeah, Bombshell does a good job of exploring that idea.
Yeah.
um, I like how you couple of things you said, Marina. Definitely this, but also you're talking about your background, as a Latina and all that, and just yeah, so much of this country is like all these different Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latina people that have worked so hard and like do everything and anything, not just for themselves here, but back in their country, and definitely applaud that. But then again, it's like, yes, that's amazing and heartbreaking and great. It doesn't mean that we need to continue to do that, and it shouldn't, and it needs to change. And that's one of the issues that we have, that all these different groups, it's like, well, I had to do this, so then if I had to do this, then you should be able to do it. And it's like, yes, but no. Like, like, yes, but no. Like, we can work hard, but we
If I had to
shouldn't.
go through it, then you have to go through it.
Right, and that's it drives me crazy because it's like, don't you remember how bad you were feeling and knowing that it's wrong? Now you're in that position and you want to now force the next group of people that are being oppressed in one way or another. And talking about the sexual harassment, it just made me think. So when I went to Paraguay a few years ago, and I met someone, and she was in, I don't know if she's a lawyer in law school or whatever, but she was talking about how the whole law office, like, this is still a thing, and this is in Paraguay, and it's just an ongoing thing. They had a WhatsApp group of all the law students or whatever, and I don't know if it was all men, and it's like, who has the best ass on the office? And the guys would just take pictures of women's butts from getting on the bus, off the bus, and he was like, I want best ass. I was like, what do you do? What do you fucking do? Like, at what point, how much can you talk about it? Because the moment you talk about it or whatever, they find a way to take out. Or the idea that she was telling me about it, and how got brought into the office. Hey, so and so. Hey, like, blah blah blah. We can talk about your promotion, whatever. Hey, go on a vacation. What? What are you doing to already? So,
You're breaking up again a
We're
little.
breaking up a little bit over there, Dino.
oh man, that's the man. Voice down.
I feel like we could be on here for 3 hours
Shutting us
talking.
down.
This is the
Well, let
thing.
me
It's
give you guys a quick little stat, real quick. Um, when this movie opened, it did 38 million at the box office on a 14 million dollar budget. So, I mean, the movie did make some money when it came out. I don't know how much of that was spent in marketing costs. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes they say marketing is the same price as the movie. And then there's a split that had to happen between the distributors. I would imagine this movie probably did a little bit better than break even for the producers. That would be my guess.
and
Um,
10 million was just for Meryl Streep. No.
I mean, I mean, she probably had what, one day on set, maybe two
Half
tops,
a day,
and
half a day.
I'm sure she got a nice. I hope she got a nice payday from it. I hope part of that budget went to her. Okay, let me just say a Meryl Streep thing before we get out of here. Meryl Streep, isn't it funny how it felt like they accepted her as an honorary British person? Didn't
I
you
feel like
feel that way?
she can play anything. I think we'd accept her as an African. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Well,
Damn.
a white African, sure.
No.
I'm sure she would kill it. I have no doubt. Like, she would nail that accent.
Judy Dench wasn't available, I guess. Or who plays Professor McGonagall? Uh, in Harry Potter, Professor McGonagall, and she's
Oh,
the
yeah. What's her name?
and she plays
Maggie Smith.
Mary in,
She was
yes,
the
Maggie Smith.
lady on Sister Act, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, that was pretty funny. I don't know why I expected more of her. I feel like the marketing kind of showed every clip she had in the preview.
Yeah, they
Who,
had
Meryl
to.
Streep?
They said we had her for one day, and we're going to milk this puppy.
Awesome. All right. Well, unless we have anything else to talk about, let's jump into those final thoughts.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great movie. I think this is one of the shit. I watched Amistad in middle school. In school, I had as there's a lot of penis that you see in Amistad, and we watched that in history class. This should be up there with it. So I forget. I mean, um,
Take out
but
flowers for Algernon and put in.
but I think it's such an important piece. It's really well done, and the reason why, because I feel like this doesn't fall in any kind of trap of some of the historical movies that we sometimes tend to see that is catered specifically for our day. In that, like I said, about I don't think they said rape at all. they didn't use any language that is part of our modern lexicon. They were like, we're gonna keep it to here. This is gonna be talked about. This is gonna be seen. We know what those things are, but this movie is bigger than that. And that's why I think this, after seeing it, after talking, everything we've done today, I'm like, this is an even better movie than what I thought it was when I first saw it. And it probably would have done better, even if it, I think it would have done better if the title was different. I don't know what you would title this movie, but I feel the fact that it's suffragette or suffragette, however you want to say it, if it had a different title and maybe even a slightly different poster, this movie would have done a whole lot better. But I think this one of these this is also, I feel like, timeless, because again, this kind of shit's still going on. And again, that's why I think it's timeless, because it's not trying to force feed you the today's what we need to think about or feel about today's society, because it sticks so much to the historical time period and allows and hopes that the audience is smart enough to connect with not just historically, but then place it with what we are dealing with in today's day and age. So it's a really sad movie. It's a little bit of a downer to watch, but I really hope this starts being put into the kind of like rotation of films that maybe in high school kids can watch, or filmmaking school kids, because there are also some great monologues in it. Like, this is up there with movies that are gonna be relatable, sadly, 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Um, I will say I agree with all that. Yeah, this movie very much feels like it would be like in an AP high school class. You know, um,
Oh, just for them smart kids, Jason, huh? You thinking
yeah,
the
because the smart
non-AP
kids
kids
would
aren't
have
gonna
had
be
to
able
get
to
through so
handle it?
much history to get to the point where they're here, right? So the smart kids, they already know some history going in. But this is definitely like a history AP class or women's studies course or something like this. I don't know, but you would. This is, I think it's important, I think, for kids to see this for sure. It seems very educational, and it's a lot to get you to think a little bit. Um, Also, you know what, this movie sort of reminds me. So I will say this: when the movie started, just to show you where my mind, even though it's called Suffragette, there was a point as I'm watching this, I guess I sort of blanked out about what the suffragettes were about or something, or I didn't put the title to it, but I thought they were fighting to get a union in their workplace. That's what I thought this movie was going before. It's like, oh wait, like, and that's even like worse. Because like that's my thinking, like, oh yeah, they're sending in the big boys to shut down the union, like they always do. The whole town's in on it to shut down the union on these ladies so that they can't have proper work conditions and they got to get changed in the dark, and you know what I mean, all this different kind of stuff. And then it hit me like, no way, this is so much bigger than that. Like when it like finally unraveled itself to me. But then there was also a movie that came out, I think, in the early 2000s called North Country, starring Charlize Theron, where they're basically whooping on her because she wants to start a union for the women in the coal mines or whatever. Um, yeah, so this is a story that's been told, in movies. I feel like a fair amount of times. There probably needs to be more stories told. It's better to be educated and know what has happened so we can know where we're going and notice also how far we have not come to something that's so absurd, so absurd. Uh, I would recommend this movie to just about anyone. I just said I would recommend it to kids can start watching this in high school, as far as I'm concerned. Um, so yeah, that's that. I would recommend it to almost anyone. I guess if you children, like I said, little kids, maybe not, but it's a PG-13 flick, probably. I guess they don't actually show rape, but they do show the little girl like about to be like raped.
I'm
Um,
It,
so happy
I
they
thought
saved her.
I'm just getting a rating down in my head. So anyways, yeah. So that's what I would recommend it to. Would I watch this again? Yeah, I think this isn't the normal type of movie that I would watch more than once. I watch most movies more than once. So yeah,
Unless it's a double feature with promising young women.
right. This thing is a double feature, and yeah, I'm dating a
And
woman
there's a
who's making
talk
me
back
go. Then I'll
at
go.
the end, and there's a talk back at the end with a Q&A with Carey Mulligan. Then you watch it.
Oh yeah, if Carrie's there. I'm there.
What if
Fact.
she's like in real life? Like which
Huh?
character? I wonder which one of these characters we've seen is closer to her personality.
Interesting. Yeah, like who are you in this story, Carrie? Well, I mean, she is the lead in the movie, so
Huh?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
She's a maestro of acting.
Bring on more Mulligan. That's what I always say. Yeah, but
Bring on
that's
more
my
Mulligan.
final thought.
All right,
Nice.
Marina.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dino, was that technically your final thought? Because you were talking, and I was like, dang, I don't know if that's his final thought or not. But yeah.
I went first.
Okay, cool. You were talking about something though, so I didn't know if that was your final thought. But yeah, okay.
I never have a final thought. You should just when I stop talking, you should take that as my final thought being done.
All right. So yeah, it's hard to say that you thoroughly enjoyed something. That's so sad, but I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed that the story is being told. Um, yeah, this was very good. I kind of actually went through a similar thing where like I said, because it was going a little slow in the beginning, I too kind of was like, where's this gonna go? Also because like it wasn't an American story, because like what happened in America with this. I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, I was like, wait, it took a second. And I just remember like the first like explosion happened. I was like, okay, it's going down. Like this is like they're really, really fighting for something. And I would recommend this movie to anybody where we start the people that like to talk about history and how things are unjust in this world, and just another story to know, because you don't always often hear about like the UK version of women fighting for their rights. So definitely recommend it to people that just like love talking about that. Obviously, I'd recommend this to a feminist if they haven't seen it already. Yeah, watching it again, I watched it 3 times over the course of 2 days, so I need a break, but yeah, if it's on, I would definitely give it a watch, or I would watch it with somebody that I was showing it to, like, being like, "Hey, we should watch this movie together," kinda thing, but overall, those are my final thoughts.
Real quick, I'm just thinking, bringing back lines that you guys said. What since you watch it, what's the line Carrie tells? I think Gleason's character about men love to fight or stand up, and that's like, what was that whole interaction they had? Do you guys remember that?
Mhm.
I don't remember word for word, no.
Okay, but that was the scene, right? Because that's so powerful. Because you said about we don't hear that much about the kind of the UK having to fight for things, but then I'm thinking of like what movies are there in the US about women suffragette
Well, it
or
wasn't so
what
much
stories?
that, but just me knowing the history of the women in this country
Oh,
'cause I live
okay,
here.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, not
okay.
so much that there's a story to be told. Just in history class, they did
Yeah.
not go over UK suffragette movement. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I clearly I don't remember the line or the dialogue, but that's kind of the interaction that made me think of their back and forth where I had talked about Russell Crowe and like Denzel or those kind of back and forth of people of her being like basically white men love to play the rebel, right? When they're the ones fighting for stuff and they are able to win. But when other people are trying to achieve what they achieve, then it's like no, no.
yeah,
That was it.
yeah.
Right
Well,
on.
do we
What
still?
about Steve? Where's Steve at?
Jason, do you have a question by any chance?
I do have a question. I had a question for Steve, and that would be, what do you got for us next week? But Steve seems to be long gone. So
Did
I
our
do, huh?
no go.
Yeah. So I do have a movie because it's my week to pick. I wish I could pop it up on the screen, but I can't. So what I'm going to do is just say it, and then I'm going to have to write it in the chat for you guys to take a look at. The movie is called uh, Tootsie, or it could be pronounced Tootsie. It's an African movie. It's made in Africa. I went that
Oh,
route, and it's spelled T-S-O-T-I. I'm going to put that in the chat right now. You guys can, I guess, look it up, but Steve, he's found it for us. No, maybe I'm gonna get wrong. It's something like this. No, that doesn't look right.
all right. Well, Tootsie. Okay.
Tootsie.
Okay.
I thought you were mentioning the Dustin Hoffman movie, and I was like, wait, that was part of the Tootsie?
That's right. That's right. It's woman empowerment. See?
Yeah, oh, shit.
Oh man, well,
Well,
thank
I'll
you.
see. Well, for Marina and Dino and myself, Jason and Steve, we'll see you guys next week. Bye
Yes, we
bye.
will. Bye bye. I guess we all exit now, and I'll just.
Yeah, I guess that's the only way to end this thing.
Good night, guys.
Good
Marina,
night.
thanks for picking this film, and see
Yay.
you guys later next week. Bye.